What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to more common sense, logic, and reason. We can always use more of it. Today, I'm gonna talk about more on black hypocrisy, and I'm gonna talk about a specific example, and probably the greatest example of hypocrisy amongst blacks. That being the absolutely, completely, totally discrepancy and a difference in how blacks respond to something that's considered or assumed to be race, as opposed to something that's not race. When black people think that something is racism or there's some racism somewhere under a rock, blacks will again go bananas. Meanwhile, when there's something that's not race, something that we can't cry race about, it largely gets ignored. They could probably, in most cases, couldn't care less about it. And again, there's numerous examples of this. You have to be totally blind to not see it. Black people. It could be if you have a black person somewhere, right, and they could be out at an outing, I say at a restaurant, and they get into it in some altercation with a group of white people there. What's the first thing they're gonna say? Well, these are racist white folks, and they hate black people, and they only did it because they're racist. Meanwhile, these exact same black people, let's say a week later, can get into the exact same altercation with some black people. In that case, well, it would just be an altercation because, again, they can't cry racist about that. Again, we see this happen all the time with black people. A black person right now, I'm telling you, can right now go get a gun or assault rifle right now and go into a park in a black community where you have black kids out there playing, black people out there enjoying their day in the park, can get an AK-47, go out there and kill everybody out there. And guess how black people are going to respond? Either ignore it or they're going to go into, that it's so sad mode. And we've all seen that it's so sad mode before, Oh, that's so sad. I don't understand it. This just don't make no sense. This is all so senseless. How could he do this? How could he do such a thing? I just don't understand this. It just don't make no sense at all. I mean, we need understanding. Every time niggas do stuff, they need understanding. Like, meanwhile, a white person pinched the bitch and black folks will go crazy. Trust me, they will. They had to pinch that bitch. They will lose their damn minds. They will. I'm saying white person shoots a damn spitball and the world is going to come to an end. Now, a good example of this would be the Trayvon Martin case. And we are all familiar with Trayvon Martin, the way it was hyped up and blown up out of proportion. I mean, they know about Trayvon Martin in Russia and China. Now, when the Trayvon Martin incident happened, black people, again, as always, they bitch, moan, and whine, cry, and complain about racism, injustice, as always. And then we had the case in which George Zimmerman was found innocent, as in he operated based on self-defense. Again, black folks acted fool, whine, cry, complain, the chance of no justice, no peace, and justice and just us and all this other foolishness. Losing their minds, trying to come up with excuses why it wasn't self-defense or whatever, even though the evidence clearly proved this. Now, about 4 months after the Trayvon Martin case, there was a situation that happened in the city of New Orleans on top of all the other situations that had happened. But for this particular incident, I was actually watching the news that day and I saw the report. And it was an incident in which a 25-year-old man and his 7-month-old son were both shot and killed while sitting in the back seat of a car that somebody opened fire on, okay? Now, it wasn't a stray bullet. Niggas that need stray bullets. They were ambushed. So this was premeditated. Now, I was watching this article and the whole time thinking to myself, black people ain't going to give a jack shit about this article. They're not going to care about this because it's not race. They don't give a damn. because you can't get black people to respond to nothing unless it's some race. I've always said, if you want to get black people actively involved in something, figure out some kind of way to make race out of it, then jump for your life so you don't get trampled to death. Because niggas with black folks would come running. But I ask myself, how exactly is the Trayvon Martin case more important in this case? How is Trayvon Martin's life more important than the life of this man and his 7-month-old baby who was killed before he even had a chance to be indoctrinated by the race narrative? And by the way, I'll put a description and a link to the article if y'all want to go read it. But I would say, obviously this is more tragic because this baby wasn't on top of somebody pounding their head into the ground, but the child is dead. Now, we all know this, and I guarantee you, we all know this, regardless if people don't want to admit it or not. Had it been police officers that shot and killed that man and that baby, shot in that car without provocation, or hell, if it was somewhat questionable, y'all know as well as I do that the shit would hit the fan with black people. As a matter of fact, so much shit would hit the fan would literally clog and stop. That's how much shit would fly, That's how much of a shitstorm it would be if police officers did this or some skinheads who were going around looking for black people to kill. It would have been an international story. If there were people on Mars, if there was life on Mars, they would have gotten the communications by now. They would have seen the broadcast spread that far by now. If police officers or skinheads or somebody or some white people or something race to cry about. Meanwhile, if Trayvon Martin would have been killed by some niggas over some Jordans or a starter jacket, black people wouldn't have gave a damn. The only reason why the Trayvon Martin case is even known because it was racism or assumed racism. Again, more black hypocrisy. And we see evidence of this all the damn time with black people. So busy focusing on what white people are doing, we have no time to focus on ourselves or what we're doing. Yet another, again, more black hypocrisy. And like I say, as I see black hypocrisy, I'll be here reporting on it. And y'all can expect that because, again, black people need to be held accountable. We need to start holding ourselves accountable. I mean, there's almost no accountability in the black community. No matter what happens in the black community, there's always going to be somebody somewhere, usually the race hustles, finding excuses or ways to excuse it away or ways to blame it on the white man. And as always, y'all, until next time.